Hello, and welcome to the Beginner's Guide to Star Citizen. Star Citizen is being developed as a science fiction space adventure game, a game of uncompromising beauty and realism. Star Citizen is the game that I and many other hardcore space game fans have been waiting for. However, in the past, the technology was simply not available to create a space game of the magnitude Star Citizen aims to accomplish. Well, my friends, I am happy to say that day has arrived, and I would like to introduce you to a space game that will completely blow your mind. So what I would like to do right now is show you, about 12 images or so, just to show you how incredibly beautiful Star Citizen is going to be when it's released. Just to give you a little taste of what you can expect. But first, a brief word from the legal department here at Citizen Academy. The next topic I would like to discuss is the living, breathing universe aspect of Star Citizen. And by that I mean nearly everything you do in the Star Citizen universe has what you might call a ripple effect throughout the universe. So what this means is you actually have a role in the game. You can, by your actions, alter the future of how the Star Citizen universe unfolds within the actual game itself. You are an active participant in the Star Citizen universe. You're not just a passive player reacting to what the universe is doing to you. You can alter the universe. For example, let's say you and your friends take over a uranium mining colony. All of a sudden, the prices of uranium in that sector of space skyrocket. Or what if you murder somebody? Well, you're going to find you're going to have a bounty on your head, and you're going to have bounty hunters throughout the galaxy hunting you down. Or you land on a new planet and you're looking around a brand new city you've never been to. You turn down a dark alley, you get attacked by thieves and get all your stuff stolen. Make friends with the wrong sort of people, and you may end up having all the cargo in your ship stolen. Or if you get mixed up with space pirates, you're probably going to end up having the government hunting you down and marking you for death. But the universe isn't going to be an entirely hostile place. I mean, for example, if you discover a brand new habitable world, you can name that planet after you. If you want to start a interplanetary trade corporation, hey, go for it. You might become extraordinarily wealthy and have even more influence within the Star Citizen universe. Now, the question is, my friends, which path will you choose? For this next topic, I would like to talk about the absolutely incredible level of detail you're going to see in this game, particularly with the spaceships that you'll be flying around in. I mean, here, have a look at some of these pictures. This is the interior of one of the spaceships. I mean, look at all the detail, all the parts and components, the reflection of the lights on the ceiling onto the floor. It's just amazing. Here's a close-up of a computer panel inside one of the ships. Now, this image is still in sort of a mock-up phase, but even at this stage, you can tell that something as simple as this is going to be incredibly well detailed. Now, this is the interior of a patrol spaceship. These are, I guess, what you can call the prison cells for the people that you capture. Like if you're say a bounty hunter, you might have a ship like this, and you hold your captive prisoners in these cells. Again, the attention to detail is just amazing. Here is just another random picture of something inside of a ship that you'll see. This is a shield generator. Just by looking at the detail and the way the light reflects off of the surfaces, you can almost feel the mass of the thing. Now, here's something that kind of surprised me. All right, these are just storage boxes and cases and whatnot. But again, I mean, they could have made these as really simple boxes, but no. They're going overboard and showing even intricate detail on something as mundane as a storage box. I mean, come on. Here's something else I found on one of the ships that I own. This is, I guess, what appears to be a oxygen supply line mechanism of some sort. But even with this, I mean, it appears to be a fairly unimportant part of the ship, but still, the level of detail on something like this, wow, it's just absolutely amazing. Now, not only are the ships going to be incredibly detailed, but you, as a character in the game, are going to be incredibly lifelike in your appearance. I mean, look at this guy. Okay, all right, he is bald, and I hear all the time people saying, are all the characters in Star Citizen going to be bald? No, they're not going to all be bald. You'll be able to have any kind of hairstyle you want, hair color, whatever. But this is just a sort of a working prototype for the generic characters in Star Citizen. But even here, I mean, just look at the level of detail in this. I mean, you could see the individual pores in this character's skin. Here, let me zoom in a little bit. This will really freak you out. Check that out. That is absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, enough about all the finer details, because I'm getting excited to go on to the next topic. For this next topic, I want to talk about the physics of spaceflight, because Star Citizen handles this very differently than other space games do. The way other space games usually handle spaceflight is they base it on atmospheric flight, but without air resistance and gravity. And in a way, that sort of makes it seem like you're flying in space, but it isn't really a true model of what actual spaceflight is. Well, Star Citizen does things a little bit differently. What they have done is they have a spaceflight model that is 100% accurate to Newtonian physics. Now, let's take a real-life example and see how this works. Let's say you're a cargo transporter, okay? And you've overloaded your ship with all sorts of goods that you're transporting across the galaxy. Well, your ship is now going to perform differently than it would if your cargo hold was entirely empty, because you've changed the mass of your ship, and therefore you've changed the inertial mass of your ship, which of course, because it's following Newtonian physics, changes the flight dynamics of your ship overall. Now, one of the things that I've found for myself is that one thing that takes a lot of getting used to is that control feedback, for example, moving your joystick or mouse in order to control where your ship goes, the control feedback that you get is not instantaneous. This is one thing I've actually learned for myself, and I can tell you those thrusters are finicky little devils, and it's very easy to overcorrect your flight path and veer way off course. And one more thing about the spaceflight model, and that is that each ship in Star Citizen has, I guess, what you can call its own personality of how it handles in space. You know, you can sort of think of it as the difference between how a sports car handles versus a pickup truck. All right, now before we go on to the next topic, I want to show you guys an example of a ship in flight. Now, the video I'm going to show you is a ship flying around inside the atmosphere of a planet, which currently the ships are not modeled to do, but it'll give you a pretty good idea of how awesome it's going to be flying around in space. So, sit back and enjoy. Now, was that cool or what? All right, enough of this flight physics. Let's go on to the next topic. All right, on to topic number 5, Spaceship 3D modeling. Now, the thing to keep in mind about Star Citizen is this game is resetting the bar on so many levels of what a space game can be that I've pretty much lost count of how many ways it's going to revolutionize the space game industry. For example, with the spaceships in Star Citizen, in a lot of other space-type games, and the ships they're modeled to really look pretty cool looking, and they have shields and they have engines and so on and so on, but Star Citizen takes things to a whole nother level. In Star Citizen, the ships aren't just hollow models that look pretty. Each ship in Star Citizen is a simulation of a spacecraft composed of hundreds of functional parts. So let me show you some pictures of the ships I have in my hangar, and I'll be able to give you a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about as far as the functionality of the parts within your ship. Here's a picture of my favorite ship. This is the Redeemer made by Aegis Corporation. Now, this ship has a lot of functional parts to it. For example, the canopy over the cockpit. When you walk up to the ship and you climb in, the canopy actually opens up, and then when you sit down, it closes back down again. The gun turret you see there on the top of the ship, that rotates and goes up and down as you fire on certain targets. The engines to the left and right, those are what people like to call giant nutcrackers, because when the engines are engaged, they open up like wings, like a nutcracker, and they have a really cool energy beam effect between each of those sections. It's pretty cool looking. Here's another view of the Redeemer where we can see the engines much better. And now you can also see pretty clearly on the bottom of the ship, sort of below the cockpit, there's another rotating gun turret down there, and that is also fully functional, just like the top gun turret is. And here's another view of my Redeemer, and it doesn't really do much to explain the functionality of various parts of a ship, but I wanted to include it because I think it's a really cool looking picture. Now let's take a look at just how functional certain parts are on ships. And I can think of no better way than to show you the landing gear of various spaceships. For example, this one right here. All right, it looks pretty nice, but what you need to keep in mind is each of the components you see on this landing gear, they're actually functioning components on the ship. They're not just there just to look pretty. Same thing with this landing gear here. All the components you see on this are actually functioning parts. Here's another great example. This one has loads of detail, lots of parts. I mean, just look at all that detail in there. Here, let's take a much closer look. I mean, check that out. Have you ever seen in a space game a ship that has landing gear that looks this awesome? I mean, wow. That's just amazing. And each of these parts, again, is a functioning part. It's all engineered to function as if it were a real ship. Now, when you're in the cockpit of your ship, you're able to control the thrusters, the shields, the energy distribution of various components, your weapons systems, your computer controls, and a whole lot more. And this even goes to the extent where you can actually tweak the various components of your ship. For example, you can modify your shields to perform above their own specifications. Furthermore, if you got the money for it, you can buy replacement components so you can get upgrades for your ships. Now let's move on to topic number 6, which is somewhat of a related topic to what we just talked about. And this has to deal with how all the systems on board your ship, they're all pretty much interconnected with one another. Oh, and by the way, the picture in the background here, this is a really cool close-up shot of the giant red spot on Jupiter. So whether we're talking about the main engines for your ship, or the weapons you have on board your ship, or even the onboard computers, they are all interconnected with one another. Here is a look inside the guts of one of my ships. Now, all these various pipes and conduits and whatnot, these all connect the components of your ship together. And I like to refer to these as spaceship system nodes. And you can think of it as a giant wheel in which all the various systems aboard your ship are connected to, and they're all interconnected with one another. Now, this is a very rough diagram. I mean, some of the systems on your ship are not directly connected to other systems. But the overall idea here is that whatever affects one system on your ship may potentially affect 2 or 3 or 4 other systems on your ship as well. Let's say you're in a giant space battle and one of your opponents starts to shoot you at close range with his weapons. What happens with most space games is You have shields. You have a certain level of energy on your shields. And then once those are drained away, various ballistic rounds can then penetrate your hull and do damage to your ship. And in general, this damage system is organized by a series of hit points. So once your ship takes a certain number of hit points, it's basically destroyed. Well, not so with Star Citizen. Once your shields are drained and a ballistic round penetrates the exterior armor of your ship, where specifically that round enters your ship can have a profound impact on how much damage is done. For example, let's say this is the pipe that leads away from your cooling system on board your ship. And this pipe right here is a pipe that leads from the cooling system to your weapons to keep them nice and cool so they don't overheat and they don't shut down. Well, if you take a ballistic round right at that pipe from the main cooling system, that's going to prevent the cooling system from being able to cool off your weapons. As a result, by getting a ballistic round in that particular area of your ship and getting damage done to your cooling system at that particular area, now your weapons are going to start to overheat and they're going to shut down. So as you can see, the way all the systems aboard your ship are interconnected can have a pretty profound impact on how your ship performs. For this next topic, I would like to discuss solo and multi-crew ships. Now, in Star Citizen, you have quite a few options as far as how a ship can be crewed. For example, the simplest one is you have a single-seater ship in which you're the pilot, and that's it. And you fly around solo and do whatever it is that you do in the Star Citizen universe, all by your lonesome. Another option is to be a crew member on a much larger ship. A lot of the ships that you can buy have a crew of 4, 5, 6, 8 people. Now, you can either be the captain of one of those multi-crew ships, or you can be sort of a specialist crew member. For example, you could be the crew member that specializes in manning a gun turret or manning the operation of the shields on the ship. In this way, the captain of the ship does not have to do everything all by himself. Now, one thing that's really cool about Star Citizen is that on a multi-crew ship, you could have your friends join you on your ship, or, and this is the cool part, you can have NPC characters be members of your crew. Or you can mix and match. You can have 1 or 2 of your friends on board your ship, and you can have 2 or 3 NPC characters on that same ship, and you can all go off and have your great adventures in the universe. One other option would be, let's say you have a 2-crew ship, and you're the pilot, and you have an NPC character as your co-pilot. Your friend gets in contact with you, and he wants to join you. So what he can do is, he can take the place of the NPC character that is currently being your co-pilot. Now, regarding these NPC characters, there's a question that arises, and that is, well, how do you know which NPC characters to hire for certain positions on the crew of your ship? Well, it turns out that all NPC characters have a rating system that the other players participate in to sort of rank each NPC player that they have hired. Think of it as like a Amazon.com rating system for the stuff that they sell. Same sort of thing going on. So what you do is, as the captain of your ship, you would go on to a sort of ratings job board and find NPC characters that are within your sector of space and that are highly qualified for the task that you are looking for them to fill. Oh, and this rating system, it also applies to all the real-life players as well. That is going to be really cool. Now, you may be wondering, what am I going to do in the Star Citizen universe? Well, funny you should ask, because the next topic is the occupations in Star Citizen. Now, before I tell you about that, I need to go over with you a few things you need to consider when choosing an occupation. The most important of which is, what ship should you purchase to match the occupation you wish to pursue? For example, if you want to be an information runner, where you transport sensitive computer data from one planet to the next, you want a ship that has some really advanced computer hardware on board, something that has a lot of encryption, something that allows you to wipe the data very easily and very quickly in case you get taken over by, say, a bunch of pirates. Or if you want to transport cargo, you wouldn't want to purchase a ship that has a really tiny cargo hold. You want to have lots of volume to transport lots of goods. Now, something else to consider is, in the Star Citizen universe, you don't have to stick with one occupation for the entire time you're playing the game. If you become bored with one thing, you could change your occupation and try something else for a while. So if you're somebody who wants to try out a variety of occupations, what you may want to do is, over time, you can build up a small fleet of ships, each of which is best suited for a particular role you wish to pursue. So, what can you do in the Star Citizen universe? Well, you can do this. Seeing how the Star Citizen universe takes place roughly 930 years in the future, you may wonder, hey, have we encountered other, advanced civilizations out there? Like aliens? Well, yes, we have. 5, in fact. The first race that we encountered were these guys. We first made contact with them in the year 2438. Fortunately, they are a fairly peaceful race whose main occupation appears to be trade, and whose primary concern, from everything we can gather, appears to be profit. Lots and lots of profit. The second alien race that we came in contact with were the Jian, and I probably mispronounced that name. It could be Jian. That's a pretty close pronunciation. We first made contact with them in the year 2530, and unfortunately, right after that, we were caught up in an interstellar war with them that lasted approximately 260 years. But currently, we are at peace with them. The third alien race that we came in contact with were the Teverin, and unfortunately, there are no known images of what they look like, but we first came in contact with them in the year 2541. At that time, they were not as technologically advanced as we were, but if history has recorded things accurately, they attacked us first. Fortunately, by the year 2610, we had completely defeated their civilization, and for the most part, they have become assimilated into the United Empire of Earth. The fourth alien race we came in contact with were these guys, and we first contacted them in the year 2681. Now, you should be warned, these are the guys you want to avoid. If you ever get in contact with them out there in the middle of space, in the middle of nowhere, you want to get out of there as fast as you can. They're a very hostile race, and they will pursue you and attack you. Oh, and on a side note, there have been rumors flying around that sometime after the launch of Star Citizen, roughly a year from now or so, there are rumors that the Vanduul are going to launch an outright invasion of the planet Earth. And the fifth alien race that we know about, and I say know about because we haven't actually made physical contact with them yet, are the Karthak. And it's another name that I'm probably mispronouncing, but it's spelled Krthak. And we know very little about these guys. And so we finally come to the final topic. Now, Star Citizen is going to be such a mind-bogglingly huge game of such incredible complexity and beautiful craftsmanship that one might wonder, what are the limits of what a player can do in Star Citizen? Well, for me, this is a fairly easy question to answer. And the answer is now, I can hear some of you out there saying, hey, Citizen Academy, you never talked about this topic, or you never talked about that topic. Well, you're absolutely correct. But the thing is, Star Citizen is going to be such a huge game that I cannot possibly cover every topic within one video. But not to worry. This is going to be a multi-part series of videos in which I will be covering a wide variety of topics to great depth. In closing, I would be really interested to know what you think of this first video. So please leave me a comment. And finally, if you would like for me to continue making Star Citizen videos, please show your support by subscribing to my channel by clicking on the link below. Until next time, this is Citizen Academy, wishing all of you fame and fortune in the verse.